like the reaction like you're losing your first one Saturday night?
I think it was good. I think have got a good understanding of what transpired during the game, and that there's a lot of us that could have done things a lot better to force a different outcome, and so they're identifying all those places. We're identifying all those places, and we're going to work at it. So the attitude's been good.
So there's no concern about letting one loss affect how you prepare for the next game?
No,
These guys are good about that kind of stuff.
no, yeah. I think they're going to be very good at being able to respond.
One of those things you guys have to respond to is not doing so well on third down conversions. Made about only 25% of them Saturday. What needs to change there?
We need to make them. But in saying that, certainly we need to make a higher percentage than what we're making. But we've been able to produce a lot of big plays. I mean, if you go back through the course of what we're all about, we're a big play football team. Now, I think if you can add third down conversion, have a very good rate there, and continue to make big plays, then you have what you want. And so that is being addressed. We've talked about it, and you know, getting yourself in third and longs don't help. You know, obviously we had a couple penalties there that were pretty dramatic in the game, and holding calls, you know, that really set us back. I think Miami was penalized 5 yards. They had one penalty for a false start. We had, I think, 1,000 penalties for, you know, a lot of yards. So that's kind of the nature of a game. If it goes that way, you're probably not going to have a great third down conversion rate. But we need to get better at it, and that means doing better on first and second downs. But on first and second downs is where we've been having our big plays, and so, you know, that first down long pass converts right to another first down, and so forth. And so, just combining it, getting it all done right is what we're after. Hopefully, we can have a mindset to do a better job on third down conversions.
Having a chance to go back and look at the game film, can you better identify what went wrong for, I guess specifically pass protection Saturday? 6 sacks, you'd only given up 5 all year.
Yeah.
Were you able to identify any issues up front there?
A couple things. You know, we had a couple breakdowns. I think 4 legitimate sacks that maybe we can contribute to the line. You know, I think we scrambled a time or two when we really didn't have to, and sometimes that can lead to a behind the line of scrimmage play. And so, yeah, we have identified where those came from and how it all worked. You know, sometimes you're ready to jump at your lineman for sacks, and half the time you're right on that. But in this case, there was kind of a combination of things. But it was the biggest breakdown in terms of up front giving sacks.
Bo only 16 carries. Is that just kind of how the game played out on Saturday? You know, with some 3 and outs and some drive-killing penalties. Maybe didn't get some attempts when it was his turn in the rotation.
Yeah, and you know, Ryan Boykin is now getting a fair share of snaps, and so that cuts into Bo's snaps. I think both of them are really good running backs. What we need to do is to get another dimension going for us offensively in terms of carrying the football, and when you're running a one back, then that other dimension has got to be the quarterback. So we've got to get more production there in terms of maybe running more read type of plays, maybe more quarterback design kind of runs, because right now they're zeroing in on a running back pretty good. And you know, if you look at Bo's average per carry, it's in the 4s. You know, you'd like it to be in the 5s, and if everything's going right, it's in the 6s. You know, and so we got to help him out a little bit, him and Ryan out a little bit, by getting some other things done, getting some wide stuff going for us. You know, we are horrible at running the option right now. That's got to improve, and all those things will help the inside running game some.
How much read action did you guys use Saturday? You know, how much of it is Tyler leaving the ball in the back's belly, so to speak?
I can't give you the exact percentage of the reads that we called, but we probably called more than what you might see from sitting in the stands. And some of those reads were okay, and some of them were not. And so, you know, we just got to continue to get better at that phase of it. That'll be important for us to be a better running football team.
Sorry. You think this is a week where you can hone in on that pretty well? Eastern Michigan allows about 300 yards on the ground rushing per game.
Well, we'll see. You know, I'm big on statistics, but I know what those statistics mean when the ball's kicked off. Generally, absolutely nothing. And so, ideally, we'd like to run the ball against them. You know, the weather's going to be a factor in the game, and I don't know what the conditions are going to be like in terms of throwing the ball. So both teams are going to need to be able to produce a running game in this game, I believe. And you know, that's both teams understand that, and that's what's going to happen. You know, usually when you know a team's going to run, you start loading the box, and when that happens, you're forced to do some other things, and it's a matter of how well you do those other things to get them to start balancing out a little bit.
What distance do you feel most comfortable for Matt to kick field goals? How far do you feel confident in? Looking back on it, how did you come across your decision not to kick the field goal when it would have been about a 50-yarder?
It's been a little bit longer than 50, I think. I think it was more like a 56.
56 yards.
Yeah, and that's a hefty boot for anybody, with the win or without the win. He has the leg to do it if he's not kicking into the win. But any margin of error on the kick and it slides left or slides right, you give the opposing team great field position. And we weren't willing to take that risk at that time because it was a tight ball game, and we felt field position. I felt field position was going to play into it heavily. Now, let me, and I keep kind of extending the answers here, and that's one thing in coaching 101 you don't do. But but in, you know, they moved the ball well in the first half, and so, you know, that comes into play a little bit. You know, if you have some foresight and if you know you're going to shut them down much better in the second half, and all that's, you know, all that comes into play a little bit there in terms of whether you really give that a shot or not.
This is kind of a two-part question, Frank. One, the way the game ended Saturday, where does that rank up with some of the more bizarre or tough to look at endings that you've experienced as a head coach? And two, any kind of chance of there being a carryover effect for Tyler? Maybe second-guessing himself now a little bit because for once in his career, he didn't seem to make the right choice.
Well, Tyler's fine. You know, we've visited, and he's fine. He's ready to go. Like I said, you know, we all have identified things that we could have done a little bit better in that game, and so we're ready and excited actually to move forward. I think the team has some excitement about it, right at this point. They want to get back to winning, and the other part of the question was
the ending Saturday. Where did that rank up? You know, you've been coaching this game a long time, and that seemed to be a pretty odd kind of ending. And
that's up there.
That stuck out.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. It's up there very high. I mean, that was tough. You know, we had a couple ways to maybe win it, and it didn't work. And not to be able to get it done when we were in position to is very tough. Knowing that, you know, we've done that on more than one occasion this year, you know, but getting it done in that game, it didn't play out, and it was a different scenario. I'd have never guessed what happened would happen.
You mentioned the team has a little bit of excitement about it right now. I'd assume that's important. I guess being that it's a shorter week, that helps. And saying, look, we're going to put this in the past right now, cut it off, and move forward.
Yeah, and you know, we've been here a couple times before where we've had to play 3 games in 12 days. That is not easy on your football team. And so the only thing that we can do is to prepare and understand what those challenges are. You know, physically, that's challenging to do. And so we've got to, you know, be somewhat smart about how we practice, but yet we've got to go into the game with a mental attitude of really be able to having to play physical football if you're going to get it done. We played last time we did this. 2 out of the 3 games we played very physical. We didn't play very physical in the third game, and we lost that. And so you know, there is a concern there about that, but we know the challenges, and we're attempting to address them, and hopefully have our team ready to go through this stretch.
Coach, can you just talk specifically about the depth? Is there a timetable for when Tremaine Scott will return? And can you comment on Gerald Moore as well? You seem like he kind of in and out of the game on Saturday.
Yeah, I was hoping that Gerald would be a little healthier than what he showed on Saturday. So that was a little disappointing, but in saying that, you know, the hopes are back up there that he'll be further ahead in this game, you know, and certainly probably farther ahead in the game down the road unless he gets it re-injured. So we hope to see him play more and more as we go through the next few games here. Tremaine Scott, that all depends upon what the x-rays show in terms of the healing process, and he'll have it x-rayed again this week, but he's certainly not ready in the immediate future to play.
Was the loss on Saturday seen as maybe something more than a loss, or is to your rival, you know, conference positioning as far as the conference race goes, and then, you know, 'cause of course you're not ranked anymore? Was it seen as something bigger than just a single loss?
No, a single loss is as big as it gets, and so it was that. You know, obviously we'd have liked to continue to extend some of the things that we were doing, but that's not the case. The loss itself is always meaningful and always tough, and it does hit you. But this is a game where you're going to get hit, and you just got to be able to respond and bounce back off of it. That is really the key, you know. And we've been in this position before in terms of challenging for trying to challenge for the conference race, and so it's not new ground for us, and so we know it can be done, but we know in order to get it done, we've got to address things one at a time.
Was it disappointing to see early in the game some of the coverage busts, some of the maybe not contesting the deep throw that kind of hung in the air a little bit from the secondary? A lot of those guys have gotten a lot of playing time this year, and at some point you want to see them progress. I guess we didn't see that at the beginning of the game, at least on Saturday.
Well, the broken coverage came early, and they got an easy TD off of it, and that's always tough. But looking at the film, and I thought in a lot of ways we covered people better than maybe we've covered for a while, and so I think there has been. I think improvement has shown in that game. Now, obviously, you're facing a truly great quarterback in the MAC, and he's got some really talented receivers. So, you know, it was not an easy task, but I felt good about how we controlled the game in the second half. And the thing that hurt us in the second half on their drive, we had two busted technique plays. One, certainly that long run by him was very costly. That puts him in field goal position. But I thought defensively, for the most part, we controlled the game at about what you would like to against a talented offensive team like that, and we did that in the second half pretty well.
Eastern Michigan, what has the quarterback switch meant for their offense in going to Ben's?
You know, I don't know. We've obviously he's now started 4 games, I believe, for him, something like that, and so what that means to us is they got 2 quarterbacks that are capable of throwing at you, and you know, I don't know if one's a little bit better runner than the other, or one's a little bit better passer. They seem to be the same type of quarterback in some aspects. They've both got good size, you know, and they don't run their quarterback a lot. You know, they have a running game, and they try to build off of that with some throws, and you know, that's their style of offense, and that's the style of quarterback that they got right now.
Has the tight end stood out on film?
Yes.
He's a guy that...
Yeah, he's really good. There's a reason, I believe he's all MAC, and there's a reason for that. You know, they utilize him as a wideout in terms of how much they throw to him and his ability to catch the ball. Is a great receiver, as well as a thick kid that can stand in there and block. So they've got the complete player there.
Running back wise too, Bronson Hill averages 8.2 per carry. He's not a guy who gets a lot of carries, but maybe with the wind or rain or whatnot being a factor, potentially an explosive guy you have to deal with there.
Yeah, he's a very good running back, and they like to run the ball. That's what they want to do, and so if you don't control that some, then he's going to have very good statistics. And so we need to actually slow him down, and we need to really control the running game, try to get him to force him into the throwing game, and that will, how well we do that probably will determine how well we slow them down.
Is it nice to see some of the rest of the country begin to buy into what you've been saying for a number of years now? The MAC's pretty good and it's pretty balanced. 4 teams now getting votes in some of the opinion polls.
Yeah, I think it's this year maybe as much as any, but I think if you just look back, you can see the progress that the MAC has made in terms of an overall conference as far as quality football teams in it. And I think you got a bunch of teams in the MAC right now that can line up against almost anybody and win a football game. And you know, this conference hasn't seen that with any kind of regularity, but it's shown already this year.
Anything else? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
You guys practicing today?
Oh, yeah.